Hello and welcome to the Eliot Estate. My name is Alyssa and I wanted to take the time just to introduce myself, talk about my past, present, and our future looks here at the Eliot Estate. So first off, welcome. I'm super excited. This is our first YouTube video, and like I said, I wanted just to take the time to introduce myself and talk about the different components that make up our channel here at the Eliot Estate. Growing up, I never really showed any interest or had any interest in working in the garden. My mom had beautiful cottage style gardens, but as a kid, you don't really take interest in that kind of thing. And it wasn't until shortly after Taylor, my husband, and I got married that I started to think about landscape design and started to think about what I could create and plant with my own two hands. We lived in a small little house nestled down in the woods, so everything was kind of shaded, and we had a small budget too, so I didn't really take after too much. However, my in-laws lived about 5 minutes down the road. They had full sun opportunities, and that's when I started to come over here and start planting. I planted zinnias in a flower bed and just created some flower beds that I could come over here and kind of work my magic in the full sun opportunities. It was in the summer of 2019 that I had the opportunity of going over to Germany and France for a photography workshop. But prior to that, we were able to visit Paris, and I just really fell in love with the whole Parisian look, the whole French lifestyle. During my photography workshop, we were in the countryside over by Normandy, and as we were driving around, looking at the countryside and stuff, it felt very much like home. And I remember distinctly looking at Taylor and telling him, this French countryside feels like Amish country. It feels like home, minus the stone cottages and the old European lifestyle, the homes and stuff. And I remember telling him we could create this French countryside in Amish country, Ohio. And so that's kind of where my love for the French and that whole look kind of started to bloom. So we came back, and at that time, my father-in-law started talking about moving a 1800s barn to the family farm. And so when he started to talk about that, I started to dream about a bunch of opportunities that we could build here on the family farm. So our flower beds here at home are gonna be a part of the Eliot Estate, and I'm gonna be showing how I develop and grow and just develop our own gardens here at home. In the addition of our own gardens being developed, part of the Eliot Estate is going to be making lavender fields. So last summer of 2022, I announced that we are developing part of our hayfield into lavender fields. If you would have asked me a couple years ago if lavender fields in Ohio was a thing, I would have thought you were crazy. I wasn't knowledged. I didn't know that lavender grew in Ohio. I always thought it was just like a really dry, hot herb that had to have dry, hot weather. And so when I started to actually look into lavender and I learned about the different zones and the different varieties and stuff, that's when I started to dream about what if I could make lavender fields like the ones that I see on the internet of southern France. What if I could make those here in Amish country? So bringing the French countryside to Amish country, Ohio. And that's where I started to just really dream about all of these beautiful views and these beautiful opportunities here in Amish country. In addition to the lavender fields, Grandma has the most beautiful flower beds that have just kind of taken over with time. So we are really excited to be helping her restore her flower beds back to their formal glory and then some. We have a lot of opportunities around her home. She has a bunch of beautiful paver work, brickwork, beautiful mature trees and plants. Daylilies, a bunch of gorgeous things that just really need some love and some tender love and young muscle, actually. And so we have been working alongside her the last couple weeks to start in on her gardens. So you'll be seeing the progress and the restoration of her gardens. Lavender fields, garden restoration, our own garden development. We have so many projects, so many things to share with you. I hope you're really excited because it's going to be beautiful. I do have some footage from last summer of the different projects and that kind of thing. So you can start to see things. We're going to go out and I'm going to show you a tour of the garden. Everything's kind of looking, you know, brown and bleak. So I do have the footage from last summer just to kind of give you some color inspiration to show you what things were like last summer. So let's go out and bear the wind, and it's very dreary and kind of crusty outside. So hopefully the audio will be okay. But I want to walk you around our vegetable and flower garden, and then as well as up through the flower beds and that kind of thing to show you what we are rolling with here at the end of March. So let's go. As we come out of the greenhouse, we're going to step out into the wind. I hope my audio is going to be decent for you guys. This is our home, and you can see we have a lot of black landscaping fabric down. This is all going to be flower beds eventually. And the thing that makes our flower beds just a little bit more unique is you can see our piles of rock. We are going to have rock beds, and so therefore it's kind of necessary to have the landscaping fabric. So this I all developed within the last 3 to 4 years, essentially. And you can see we have a lot of work to be done. To my right is the start of our flower and vegetable garden, the vegetable garden being on the back side of the greenhouse, where all of the landscaping fabric and then some, still have to add some, is going to all be pea gravel. So it'll be a lot better to look at. This spring, I want to add in a few more flower beds. You can see we had a huge tree come down this past weekend, so we have a lot of cleanup work to be done. But this is where I will be growing some cut flowers. I have some peonies here in this bed. We have an asparagus bed, and then a bunch of hydrangea bushes, like a hedge of hydrangeas back in the back with some David Austin roses in the front of them. So this is kind of like the flower side of things. I have an arbor that can be going here. I have some hydrangeas here in front of the greenhouse. And then as we come to the left of the greenhouse, we have some raised beds. And this is where we do all of our veggie gardening. Over to the left side of the raised beds is a grape arbor, which I still have to prune back. And like I said, all of the black plastic will be covered in pea gravel, so we don't have to worry about weeds. But this is where we grow usually tomatoes, grew onions, a bunch of different vegetable options. So let's just run through the flower garden really quick, the landscaping beds. Over here, this is all going to be developed within the next couple years. But we're not going to start in on that until we get the majority of this issue worked out. So I have pea gravel going in the walkways to help kind of distinguish where the walkways are, and then we have a thicker 1 to 2 inch landscaping rock that will be going in where all the flowers are. I'm sorry guys if my audio is so bad. It is so crusty outside, but I did want to give you guys a walkthrough and kind of show you what we have here at the end of March. I have a little water feature right over here on the corner of the house, and it is so beautiful. When everything's in bloom, you can see we have a weeping cherry just about ready to start opening its buds. And this water feature I started to make last spring. So I will finish that up this spring. And we have some sedum, we have a boxwoods up top there. I have another David Austin rose here on the corner. I still have all of my spring cleanup and pruning to get done this spring. We have a weeping red bud here on the corner with another incredible hydrangea. They look so beautiful underneath the deck as well. I have a bunch of those planted en masse for that kind of cottage feel. You can see that we still have to install our deck railing, and I still have to work out our edging. I have some metal edging that helps keep the rocks out of the yard. As we go up to the house, this part of the house is my in-laws. So like I was saying, our house is attached to my in-laws and we love it. So we share a little courtyard area that I designed and built. And it is so tranquil because this is a bathroom right in here. And so we can open those windows. I have a fountain here in the middle of the courtyard, and you can just hear the trickling water sounds with the bird chirps. And it is just so delightful. Of course, they have a big screen-in porch, and we utilize that so much during the nicer months. I would say that I'm trying to marry the styles of a cottage garden mixed with some formal touches. And what I mean by formal touches is, and of course they're not rounded out, but like a rounded boxwood. So once I get those trimmed this spring, those will add like a nice formal touch to the garden. So kind of marrying the difference between a cottage garden mixed with some formal touches. So I have a lilac back in here with some boxwoods. I have some garden roses, good grief. Here on the side, we have a big new fountain, concrete fountain from Unique Stone coming this summer. And we just got 2 little doves that we are going to be building a dove aviary to tuck right in here. So like I was saying, these windows open up, and I'm excited to hear the fountain mixed with the dove coos this summer and spring. We decided to go with rock beds because we have chickens and they like to free range. We like to let them free range. And so the idea of having mulch for them to dust bath and knock out of the beds made me have lots of gray hairs. So we decided to go with rock beds for that purpose, and then also the purpose of not having to mulch every year. So it is a little bit harder. It is a lot harder to plant things, but it is a lot easier as far as maintenance goes. So that's just a quick look around our flower beds. We have a lot of different projects lined up for this spring, one being finishing the pea gravel and the rock beds down here where all of the landscaping fabric is, as well as just clean up and more planting. We have a lot of opportunities to add a lot more things to the garden. Well, I hope you liked that little garden tour. It is disturbing outside, and nicer weather is right around the corner. Thank you guys so much for visiting the Eliot Estate. I hope you're as excited as we are for this upcoming growing season. Like I said, we have a lot of projects between Grandma's garden restoration, the lavender fields, and just starting to continue to develop our own gardens. So I hope it's all of an inspiration to you guys in the upcoming videos. And like I said, thank you guys so much for visiting the Eliot Estate.